I'm brushing my hair. Oh my goodness. What have I been up to? My face is pretty red because I think it's still red from like being out in the snow. Uh, can I like enhance my skin appearance? There we go. A little bit better. I don't like that. Anyway, I'm sure you're all riveted by me messing with the filter. Um, so Hi, everyone. Good morning, Tim. Hi from the airport. I forget you're flying from. I shouldn't dox you and say where you're flying from. If you want to, you can, but it's from like out east, right? That's where you are now. Home for the holidays with the family, I could say. Um, hey, Monique, nice to see you. Sorry, I'm starting a little bit late. I was formatting a book, and I actually like really like formatting books. People always talk about using other software for formatting their books. I'm like, why would you do such a thing? It's so much fun to organize all the pages and everything. Um, which of course reminds me that we all like different things. That's okay. For some people, I'm sure the idea of like going through and like manually formatting a book in Word is like the very definition of torture. Good morning, Kate. How are you doing today? So yeah, it's I was saying at the very beginning before anyone joined, I was like, man, my face looks really red today, and part of it's because I was recently outside shoveling snow, and I did. It looked like this nice, crisp, warm, like pre-Christmas day out, with snow everywhere, obviously. But like the last couple of days this week, it's been above freezing. Um, Not today. Today, as it turned out, it was -1 Fahrenheit or -20 21 Celsius. With the wind chill, it was -31 Celsius, which is probably like around minus close to -20 Fahrenheit, or maybe even more than -20 Fahrenheit. So, yeah, it's explaining why my face hurt a lot by the time I was done shoveling snow. I wasn't wearing a scarf or anything. I just went out there. Tim sent me where he's. I need to know. Oh, okay. Oh, that airport. I sorry you have to be there, Tim. That's an awful airport. Oh, that's great. Nice work, Monique. Are you done I can't remember. Are you done the rewrites? No. If memory serves, you have a few more of the rewrites that are coming out next year, right? Oh, I wonder how good that will be, Tim. The storm didn't hit us too bad. Further north was pretty bad. We only got like it's hard to tell because it was pretty windy and the snow blew everywhere and drifted, but I'm guessing it was like maybe 2 inches of snow at most. Um, Hope everybody's having a fabulous Wednesday. Thursday. Oh my God, I can't believe I just got that wrong. And of course, this is like one of our last Lunch with Mal's of 2025. I think there's going to be another Lunch with Mal um, on the 23rd at some point. Uh, we have a group call at the same time that we on Tuesdays that we normally have Lunch with Mal on Thursday, so it might be like an hour later. But I'm definitely going to do one because I don't want to go the last 2 weeks of the year without doing a Lunch with Mal. So, uh, hey, Eva, mummy Eva's. Wait, it doesn't say Eva's mummy. It says Mummy Eva's. That's weird, honey. One book released every 2 weeks starting Jan 8th. Oh, that's right. That's what's happening in next year. Well, congrats on getting them done, and I'm stoked for your re-release, Monique. You've been working on this a long time. I hope it does great. Oh yeah, yeah. I just find walking through that airport. But see, I've almost always gone through that airport when doing international. Um, I did recently get to go through that airport and just stay in the domestic area, and that was actually significantly easier than having to do international. It's one of those air. So you guys know the airports. If you do international flights and you get off your plane and you walk like across the entire freaking complex to do customs stuff or whatever, and then you walk back across the freaking complex to where your plane's going to be. Like I've had ones where I swear I've walked like 2 or 3 miles in the airport doing international stuff. Um, and that's not just at a number of different airports. I think and also one of my least favorites is Minneapolis. That thing is just beastly. That airport. Um, Enough bitching about airports. Hope you guys have some good plans for the end of the year. I've had a pretty fun December. Readers are still super stoked about the new release I put out in September. I'm getting good reviews and feedback on it. And I did a group. I'm part of a group promo that's running for December for sci-fi authors. So it's like a countdown to 2026. So there's like 31 books. I put an omnibus up for free and just did my email for it yesterday and had 3,600 downloads. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And it had like 2,900 downloads before my email out went out because it was free for a couple of days. So I I would expect that by the end of the year, I'll probably get that thing up to like 5,000 free downloads. A lot of them are probably for my existing readers because the omnibus has a short story in it that's not anything else, but I'm totally okay with that. It helps with them numbers. Actually, I'm curious how it's ranking right now. I'm sure there's lots of free promo going on right now, so it's probably not doing anything amazing. Because I check rank so rarely. Oh, it's off free now, so it's got like a miserable rank. Never mind. The free run has ended. Um, that's true. Tim Pig Monster in the YouTube chats. I'm going to get some more feedback for the end of the day because I just sent him a short story to review. He's one of my early readers who goes over things. And can you make a note, Tim, of any day markers or time markers I go through in the story? Because I broke it into 3 chapters and I put in the times I think the chapters are apart, and I'm curious what you'll think. Tim also is the timekeeper. I'm fanatical about getting the time right in my books, like the time of the day of different events, because often books span weeks or months and stuff like that. And Tim keeps all of that straight for me as well, because I'm fanatical about it and not nearly perfect enough at it. But I'm curious if anyone else has any cool things they're doing before the end of the year or cool stuff you're launching early next year. Like Jill's got a Kickstarter that's going to kick off soonish. I don't know the exact date. I should know the exact date, but I don't know the exact date. Actually, Jill might not know the exact date. Hey, Cithros, how are you doing? Yeah, so I did that free promo, and the thing I'm most stoked about is on the 24th, so next Wednesday, I'm releasing a collection of stories, and one of them is brand new. And I'm actually pretty stoked to see what people think about it. Also, because there's also another story in there. There's actually 2 stories in there that have been released before, but have like really limited exposure. I never really got a lot of feedback from my fans on them, so I'm excited to get that. And I was always like, man, no one ever said anything to me at all about like a cool little Easter egg in this story called Europa's Javelin. Like no one ever brought it up, and then I discovered I never released it, which is why no one ever brought it up. January 12th. That's awesome. Cottagecozy.ca is Jill's website for her Kickstarter that she's launching. I think there's some free reads on there too. There's 3 of them now that you've put together leading up to the Kickstarter, and the book is called Dungeons and Donuts. So it's a pretty fun thing. My sci-fi readers have found it, and some of them are looking forward to the Kickstarter because Jill also writes in my sci-fi universe, so that's in the mix too. So nobody has anything planned for Christmas, author wise, or we're just going to be chill this year and just sort of be like we survived or something. I don't blame you. It's like not an issue. Dragon Roast Tavern. All right. It's been a wild ride this year. Like this time last year, I'd recently done my pre-op for surgery I had in January, or I was getting ready for it. I can't remember. No, the pre-op was in January as well. I was getting ready for my pre-op, really nervous about all of that. And then, of course, January, I had my surgery on Inauguration Day in 2025. And then we all got sick in our household. And we had like this weird, surreal 2 weeks or so where we just played video games while we were all sick and kind of feverish. And then got better, and then decided we were moving to Canada. Moved to Canada, settled in on the East Coast, and then decided we were going to move out west. Bought a house, moved out west, and now we're settling in here. And then decided that we're going to use an office for doing a lot of our work and filming in. So now we're renovating an office space that we leased. So 2025 has been freaking nuts. I would imagine a lot of other people have had pretty crazy 2025s as well. I do have a topic today, so I'm going to wander off into that. Um, but I'm also, if anybody has anything they're doing writing wise at the end of the year to get like a final push for the end of the year or anything like that, like drop a note. Oh, people do have them. Okay, cool. Maybe there's a bit of a delay. Hey, Lloyd. Have a Kindle countdown December 25th. Said ads on Facebook for book one in the trilogy. Nice, Susan. Kate plans on completely vegging out between Christmas and New Year's. I don't blame you, Kate. That's completely valid to do that. Oh yeah, Jill wants to open a bookstore in my hometown, so that could also be something that we end up doing. Who knows? Could be fun. Only hubby and cat's here doing my hair in 3 days to take out braids, color my hair, and put braids back in. That's an event, Monique. Damn. Uh, Hopefully, you got help. Right? You put your husband to work. Not the cats. You definitely don't want the cats to help with that. I'll try. You have a Kindle countdown deal on the 20th. Oh, I should be sharing comments. You're right. I forget to do that sometimes. Um, oh, that's nice, Monique. Happy New Year's birthday. Our daughter's birthday's on the 3rd, so we have sort of a celebration heavy couple of weeks coming up as well. Congrats, Lloyd. That's awesome. Yeah, Jill said Kindle countdown deal here. Um, and I was confused, and then she corrected herself and said it's a BookBub, which makes way more sense. It's actually for her time travel series, which is the very first book that we ever got a BookBub on between the two of us. I think the first BookBub on that was like what, in 2015 or something. It was way back. It's got a few of them over the years, which is nice. It hurts the ranks, so the poor book every time it gets a BookBub, like, you always shave a little bit off, so it's kind of hurting for that. Are you a bit of a workaholic, Kate? You kind of have to force yourself to be chill. Is that what you're saying? Was it 2013? I first thought 2013 for that book, getting a book. I thought that's way too early. It had to have been later than that. And nope, it was 2013. Just binging shows. All right, it's fair. It's good. You should tell your husband and the cats that they should have helped. Unless you're like, dear God, no, I don't want either any of their help. That's totally valid. So something that Jill and I talked about talking about today, for me is checklists, and this has always been like a I want to say a point of contention between Jill and I, but a point of, I don't know, something. It's been a frequent topic because I'm not a checklist person. I don't really like making checklists. Um, I don't I don't make checklists when I teach courses. I'm sure you've all noticed that if you take any of the courses I've taught, there's no checklist. Except there are now because Jill goes through afterwards and makes checklists. And the reason why Jill makes checklists is people ask for checklists. And and I've always had like this internal, like, I don't know, something. Like there's been this resistance in me to making checklists. And like for some reason I don't like it. And I don't want to make them. Now there's certain things that I find unbelievably difficult to do. Making PowerPoints for me is like one of the hardest things in the world to do. One time, I I had to do a presentation at work, and one of the I think I need to have like a visual presentation. Of course, the thing is to make a PowerPoint, and I even then this was years ago. Like goodness, this was 15 years ago. Um, I hated making PowerPoints even then. And so what I ended up doing was I made this entire text-based system, like with like at a command prompt, changing into folders, listing the contents of a folder, and that was like each of my staff members. And then I would um, output the results of the text files. That would be like the staff member bio, and there'd be an ASCII art photo of them. Like I was like, I need to do something other than PowerPoint. I hate PowerPoints. So I power going to the post office and mailing things. Going to the post office to get things is fine. Going to the post office to mail things, I'd rather climb Mount Everest, or at least train to climb Mount Everest. I don't know if I could actually do it. Um, PowerPoints and things like checklists, like it's phenomenally difficult for me. Jill's confirmed that we butt heads. Jill's had like multiple chats. She's present in both YouTube and Facebook. Sorry, pumping up the numbers there, honey. Um, and and only in like a very recent conversation did Jill and I realize that the reason why I don't I don't like checklists. She helped me ferret it out, is that I kind of feel like they're they're a, I'm using the word crutch, but I don't. I wish I had a better word for that right now because it's not quite right. But they're an aid that I think will eventually harm you. I think is what I want to say. That's the right way to phrase it. That at the very beginning, there's a lot of steps and a lot of things to do, and a checklist can be useful. But a checklist makes you think that like checking off the checking checkbox means that you completed the thing and you did it correctly. And that's not necessarily the case. If it was something like, I don't know, soil preparation and planting of alliums or something like that, right? Like, yeah, you could have a checklist and you could follow that checklist. And chances are, unless one of the conditions change dramatically, which usually they don't in your own garden, the checklist will be fine. But the way that the internet works and the way that Facebook marketing platform works, you're planting different plants in entirely different ecosystems almost like every other month. And and so a checklist ends up being a thing that can actually hurt you. The preparation, the steps that you did at one point can actually be a major problem later on and cause your ads not to work. And that's why at the root of it, I think I'm kind of actually against checklists. Um, but I also um, haven't like pushed against Jill making them because I understand that not everybody learns the same way that I do, and that I need to make information available and formatted for people the way that they learn. So I've always been for it, but I sort of we came to that realization that checklists can eventually be damaging. Um, that's sort of when we realized we should have a conversation about this, and we're actually going to make I'm going to make a more refined version of this talk right now. But like I'm okay with checklists, but eventually I think everybody needs to move beyond checklists because a subject matter expert in a particular thing just sort of innately knows how the thing works. Someone who makes tables and understands wood grain and stuff like that. They just can look at the wood, feel the wood, understand how it works, and then make a table the best way that for that piece of wood. Um, and as and that innate knowledge allows them to work with different woods in each individual piece that they get and do a good job, versus just like grabbing planks and slapping them in and just having at it, which will do like an okay job. And that's one of the thing I really endeavor to teach and hope that folks can internalize over time is sort of like the underpinnings of how the platform works that we use for most of us is like is a significant part of how we get the word out about our books. Um, so that's why I've always sort of like I think I came to the realization that's kind of why I've skewed away from doing checklists because I really want people to really innately understand. But I also recognize that well, if people can't get over the initial learning hump, they're never going to innately understand. So I've always been okay with producing materials for ways that I don't learn things. So um, that's I'm kind of curious what people's thoughts are on that. If you guys think I'm off base or something, or if you're like, Mal, like you're as much as you'd like my brain to work without checklists for certain things, it's not going to because I I want to make sure that like I understand. I'm not being ableist. Maybe is not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like kind of like ableist in a teaching way, or specifically abled is maybe the term I would want to use for that because I don't want to be like, hey, you just have to do this thing that you find impossible. Don't worry about it. But I do feel like for all of us, I think there's things that we know how to do so well that we would never even consider a checklist. Like we almost couldn't even do it because we just sort of like we know it like the back of our hand. So I'm curious some thoughts on that. All right, so there's comments here. You'll show social proof. I have no idea what that's for, but cool. That's really cool. I just find success selling my books in local towns here in North Wales. Recs are now set now 75%, used to be 10%. The Welsh love reading local. That's definitely true of a lot of smaller groups, especially more groups of people that have like their own sort of unique history. Like I know that uh, Barry Hutchinson writes, yeah, Barry Hutchinson. Um, I have a colleague I used to work with that has a very similar name. I have to constantly make sure I'm not saying the wrong one. His Scottish detective books do exceptionally well in Scotland, and they do pretty well in most of England, and they don't do well at all in the US. Um, and they do all right, but they don't. They're not like amazing like they are in Scotland. So yeah, and I've encountered people that have written things like in like small town Maine, and they sell books very heavily in Maine, especially because it's got like the tourist angle. So that totally is true. Yeah, people, if you, this also, by the way, has really become the year of the paperback, or the year of the paperback comeback at the very least. Like a lot of people are starting to see significantly increased purchases of paperbacks. Um, I think some of that's because younger people are actually like the younger people that grew up in the TikTok era are now actually like getting jobs and have the money to buy books. That generation really seems to prefer reading physical books. Our daughter, amongst them, she would vastly prefer to have a physical book over an ebook. Um, that may change when they have a room full of books and they have to move for the first time. But until then, they're buying a lot of physical books. But no, I think it's actually also the special editions are huge too. So that's pretty cool. Um, that's a very distinct way of saying what has been my worry, that people will take the checklist as gospel and not branch out beyond it. And because the thing that we're using changes all the time, you actually need to branch out beyond it. So it's pretty interesting. We're good there. I see the checklist says you completed the task. Whether or not the task is successful is a different task. But see, I think that's a danger though, because too many people view completing the task as success. It doesn't seem like you don't, but they'll be like, you know, I did the checklist, therefore I did the thing, but you might not have any because the thing might have changed, or there are other things to do. So, all right, Jill says what we really want for authors to learn ads with the checklist, then be able to go off the checklist and make choices in the moment. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Hey, Margaret. No, or Margaret, no problem. Everybody's always welcome to the party at any point. Let's see. Tim says so there's still industries where checklists are useful and can be essential. For example, highly specialized, high safety industries. Yes, that is true. You're right. Yeah, when you have to do something, when something has to be done a particular way every single time, no matter what, then of course checklists make a ton of sense. Um, Example of planting the exact same plant in the exact same soil in the exact same garden every year. You could make a checklist for that, and it would always be correct. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to be giving a little more thought about. And like my big thing is like, okay, now that I've identified that some people really require checklists as part of their learning process, and they also like people need them to feel comfortable, right? Like, not I can't I don't know if I can do the thing, but if I have a checklist, then I can follow the checklist and then do the thing. So I want people to feel comfortable to get their feet wet because I think that's still the best. That's the best way to learn, right? So you have to learn by doing it, by making ads, by observing them, by analyzing them, by seeing which ones are working, and then turning off the ones that aren't, etc. So if you're not comfortable enough to actually start doing it, you'll never get to the point where you don't need the checklist. So bridging that gap, I think is going to be one of the next big things that I want to be focused on. Actually, and I've been learning this year. I've been teaching a few things in different ways because I have to bridge this gap for people between dipping your toes in and actually and starting enough to understand how it works and and then getting to proficiency, or what we're actually going to be calling fluency in a new course that we're teaching. So it's been a big year of learning for me. Um, I've always taught I've always taught the way that I learn is also how I've taught, and I need to branch out beyond that and become a better teacher and teach the way that everybody learns. So that's proving to be a challenge, but a good one and one I'm excited about learning about. So we're gonna have something on this on how to let go of checklists, um, and of course your feedback here. Anybody who actually, I'm curious if anybody who's like, no, you'll pry my checklist for my cold dead hands now. Uh, I'm curious for feedback too, like on that, because I want to give people the tools to help them, you know, gain fluency, and that might just be it. It's just like as you do it more and more, you'll get better. But I do wonder, like I know that some people actually really legitimately have trouble with certain types of tasks and certain types of learning because we all our brains all work differently, and some people think they might have trouble with a certain type of task and a certain type of learning. So I do recognize that perhaps there are some folks who may, unless enormous effort were put into it, I recognize that people may never become totally proficient at Facebook ads. It just doesn't work for them. They, or like I'm sure even like number dyslexia could factor into it. There's all sorts of things. But aside from stuff like that, I do think that pretty much most people should be able to get pretty good at it. And like I always say, it's always like when it comes to like understanding Facebook and AMS ads, it's always like, what is the thought process? What would benefit Facebook or Amazon the most? Pardon me, just a second. And like not in a nefarious way, not in like, well, Amazon just wants our money, because if Amazon just wanted our money, they just hack all of our bank accounts and just take our money, right? Or whatever. Like they were like evil, like pure evil. That's what they would do. The real question is like, what benefits them as a company insofar as like financial bottom line is concerned. Oh, my comments weren't scrolling. Just realized that I was looking. I didn't think we were getting new comments. I'll go through those in a second. Where was I with this? Where was I going? But really, it's more like I worked in corporate America. So like what ends up happening is you have a product manager and it's some stakeholders and a team sitting in a room, and they're talking about like, what does the business need? What does the sales team need to sell more things? What are what is support getting in customer complaints and customer requests? How can we make a better thing to serve the customer while also still serving our corporate overlords and making them more money? Because it goes hand in hand, right? If you make the customer happy, the customer spends more money, the corporation makes more money. And so because they've decided not to hack our bank accounts and just steal our money, that's generally the way that they make more money. And also it's like, how can we be more lean and do this with less people or whatever? Like that's obviously in the mix as well. So then you have to think like, okay, well, who are Amazon and Facebook's largest advertising customers? Where do they make the bulk of their money? Because those people are the ones that get the requests put through the most. So that's what kind of have to think. Like Amazon and Facebook aren't deliberately trying to harm their advertisers. They're trying likely to serve their biggest clients who are spending millions of dollars a month on ads. And then once you sort of frame things around that, then some of the stuff makes sense. Like some of the help and the suggestions they have aren't for us necessarily. They're for people who are managing much larger portfolios than we are. And that can help a lot in understanding how the system works. Monique says she always sells paperbacks 3-1, by the way. That's pretty interesting. Print books are the largest growing market. Do you have data on, have you guys been doing data separation on hardcover versus paperback as well? Or is it a little bit harder to tell because I'm guessing people are, actually, I don't know. I don't know where you're pulling in data all from. So I'm curious to read that. Move a checklist, I forget a step. Get that. That's true. And to be honest, that makes a ton of sense. I do think that perhaps the Facebook system helps with that because you have a page of things to do. You just work your way down the page. I actually do often as I'm making ads, I will go back and review the page a couple times to make sure that I did every setting properly. But I suppose a checklist could be useful, even saying just like check this section, make sure the settings are set to the current best practices or something like that. That might be like an interesting middle ground. Soon as my publishing checklist has shrunk in the last 2 years. Now I use a baseline skeleton structure and I don't do everything on it and make decisions in the moment. I agree. Yeah. Jill and I had this interesting thing that happened probably like 2019. We realized that we had leaned down our publishing process so much that there were all sorts of things we knew we should be doing that we shouldn't. But there are also things where we stopped doing this, but we don't actually know if we should have stopped doing it or not. So we spent a bunch of time analyzing what actually had been working for us. It was a little bit hard to tell because we were publishing so rapidly that everything overlapped. But I do think as with anything, 20% of the effort gives you 80% of your return, and 80% of your effort gives you only 20% of your return. So a lot of things in publishing are those. But with that being said, there is also the thing that I picked up from from Alex. Shoot, I can't remember his last name, but he actually owns School, the company we use for our courses. And he said, really, there's no silver bullets, but there are 100 golden BBs. So I always kind of think now is like, okay, this thing didn't move the needle a lot, but was it one of the golden BBs that helped create this polished, complete thing? It says, I started a lead ad yesterday for my reader magnet at $5 a day, 30 signups so far. I'm not sure what metrics I should be looking at though. My click through rate is 1.32. I never use click through rate on Facebook. It's a bogus metric. You should be using result rate. That's a much better metric. Well, I guess if you were to use click through rate, use outbound click rate, because the straight click through rate in Facebook is like any click on your ad. So they could be clicking on your profile, they could be clicking on comments. So you want to use outbound click through rate, but really result rate's the number you want. What you should really be looking at though with a lead ad is how much money you are paying per result. And on a lead ad, result is going to be registration for the book. So on BookFunnel, complete registration or lead, whatever event you picked. And my goal for anybody that I run them for is less than 60 cents per email address. Ideally, less than 30 cents per email address, but even 60 is okay. I've got some people that were running the reader magnet ads for that were getting an email, a sign up every 10 cents that we spend. So it can end up being pretty good. But that usually doesn't last forever. Usually you'll find yourself settling in somewhere between 30 and 60. And if it starts to trend and stay above 60 for a long period of time, then you know, like, okay, I got to freshen this thing up. And then you should get more. So like I said, we didn't do hardcover, so it's paperback only. Okay, I think it's probably for the best because hardcovers are like printed all over the place right now too. Lloyd says on checklist. I used to work in the corporate world, and the focus moved to setting tasks in a calendar. Over unless the idea is hard to quantify time with bullet points. Yeah, and that sounds kind of like the Scrum Agile method too, where you size every task, and then a size equates to a rough measure of effort. And I'm a very task in calendar thing too. Everything I do goes into my calendar, and I assign amount of time to it. I think that makes a ton of sense too. And then I also have to measure effort in return too. You look back at your calendar and be like, wow, I spent like 9 hours doing this particular thing. You know, what kind of return did it give me? Still love a list, and that's why Jill makes the checklists. You know, I don't stop people from making them. Oh, 22 cents sounds fabulous, Kate. Well done. That's really good. And that might climb a bit as the ad runs longer. But I found that reader magnet ads can hang on at low cost per result for quite a long time. And they're of course fabulous for priming the algorithm for Facebook for it to know more about who your ideal audience is, because it's a conversion event that's further down the funnel that we talked about a couple weeks ago. So yeah, thanks for letting me sort of spitball this checklist thing. Your feedback has been super useful, and I'm never going to say to people don't do what works for you. Absolutely not. I just always want to be like, is the thing that worked for you here the thing that's not working for you later on, and is actually hurting you now or hindering you now, or could you adjust it in such a way that the negative side effects are reduced? I was give my example of the same effort at different times can be very helpful or completely detrimental. And that is like your car is stopped on the side of the road. You're near a hill. So if you could just push it a little bit, it'll start rolling down the hill and you can get to the gas station that's down the road a little ways. So you get out of your car, you put it in neutral, and you put feet on pavement and you push, and you get the car rolling down the hill. Now you're going, 20 miles an hour down the hill, and you're a little bit worried that you might slow down and not make it all the way to the gas station. What can you do to get your car to the gas station? Well, one thing for sure is that when you're moving 20 miles an hour, popping open the door and putting feet on pavement is not going to help, right? It's going to make things quite a bit worse if you do that at that point. So you have to, you always have to think is the thing, and this is so true for so many parts of your author career. The things that you do at certain stages of your author career can be very helpful, and later on those things can be actually quite detrimental, and you have to give it some thought about which might be which. So that's how when I think about when it comes to checklists and certain marketing activities and stuff like that. Yeah, that's Hormozzi. That's probably why I can't remember his last name because I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing it right. He's a very dynamic speaker. And I've actually watched a lot of his stuff, like trying to like pick up tips and learn about the ways that he speaks and presents and whatnot. He's very good at capturing attention and whatnot. He's got a very bro energy, which I'm not going to emulate. So I have to think about like, okay, what's going to work for me? But what things can I pull out of how he presents and does stuff? He's pretty good. 0.29 result rate. That doesn't sound good. That wouldn't be good insofar as a click ad is concerned, Kate. But the result that we're measuring here is not click, it's actual full conversion, in which case it's not amazing. Like a 1% result rate is would be better for an actual like down funnel conversion event like a lead, but it's not terrible actually. Especially with your cost. Your cost per result is very low, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Really, it comes down to like how many email addresses do you get per dollar spent? And getting roughly 5 email addresses per dollar spent is pretty awesome. I guess actually you're maybe closer to four email addresses per dollar spent. But that's still good because anything, honestly, like if you were like in like running a larger business and you were trying to drum up emails, you could be paying $5 per email address for someone who like is to some degree vetted to launch your product. You could easily be paying $5 an email address. And I really feel like someone saw your ad, absorbed some of the content, liked what it was about, landed on BookFunnel, saw the cover, saw your blurb, and then gave you their email address in exchange for this story. That's a vetted person. That's a person that we know, is actually interested in the product that you have. So getting that for less than $1 in the business world is actually fine. It's a-okay. I like to keep it under 60 cents because I know that as authors we can get less than 60 cents. Even $1 would be okay, but we could do better. So that's why my hard limit is actually at 60 cents. But ideally, like the less, the lower, the better. While still being reasonable. Like my lead magnet ads, I never say the book is free because I want it to be like, I don't want freebie seekers, right? Like I want someone who expects to actually have to pay for the book or is planning to read it in KU or something like that. Something where they're paying some amount of money to read books. I want them to click. I don't want freebie hunters. So I never mention my book is free. It's sort of just like an added bonus when they get there. So, well, with that, I think I am going to wrap for the day. I've got a call coming up with Lee Savino. She does $1 Million Author with Russell. Actually, I'm not sure if this is with Russell or not. I think it's just with her. I should know this. I think it's in her group. Jill, save me. How do people join the thing that we're doing with Lee? Okay, what's her Facebook group called? Oh, okay, so it's in the Millionaire Author Mastermind Facebook group. Okay, so there'll be a link to the Zoom so you can join in. We're doing a Q&A. Apparently, Jill says it's everywhere, so you can't miss it. $1 Million Author Mastermind group on Facebook, Lee Savino, which is the group she runs with Russell Nolte. So yeah, I'll be doing that in 45 minutes, answering people's Facebook questions. So you're welcome to join that, come with questions, or just like absorb whatever goes on and see if there's anything in there that could be useful. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to formatting this book that comes out next Wednesday because I love formatting books and I'd forgotten how much I love formatting books. So I'm going to dive into that and we'll see all of you fabulous folks. Let's tentatively plan for next Tuesday, 1 hour later than it normally happens. So it'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern time next Tuesday. There'll be lunch with Mal. All right, folks. See you. So let me double check that. Yes, that's what I put in my calendar. Yeah. Okay, it's going to happen. So we'll see you next week. Ciao. You're welcome, Tim. Have a good read.